In this world of trouble, a station come to me, speaking words of wisdom, galaxy, galaxy.
Alright, well we're having this meeting today in Southwark Town Hall. It's Thursday the 11th of July, and we're having it because of the increased level of racist attacks and police attacks on the black community. We're hoping for a good turnout. So far, we've got quite a few people in there. I'm hoping for a few more. We'll set the cameras in there later on to film the police officers and the local council answering some of the questions from the community. So I'll give you another interview after the meeting to tell you how well it went. You know so much about it. What's up, this? Oh, by the way. Yes. It doesn't matter, I just want to know. Give them hell. Alright, bro, you going inside the meeting? Yes, sir. Yes, nice. What floor is it on? It's in the central chamber, you know, the second floor.
Particular incidents which have taken place very recently, which have caused such concern that members of the community have said, look, there has to be a meeting to discuss this, because in the absence of that, there could be very serious repercussions. And as responsible organisations, as a national organisation, the National Black Caucus, and also the local organisation here, which is the umbrella organisation for black communities, we recognise that the urgency in having this meeting. And in doing so, we have a panel here who are representative of a number of other organisations, national organisations, as well as other locally based groups up and down throughout London. I don't know if people have got this leaflet here, but it basically outlines some of the issues on the agenda which we'd like to address tonight. What I'm going to do is there's actually quite a few speakers who will be speaking this evening. So I'm going to ask for your support as chair in terms of trying to get the discussion rolling. What we want to do at the end is to actually address modes of action. So we don't just go away and say, yes, we've had a good discussion. We actually address what we're going to do as a result of having this meeting. So I'm going to need your support, and I think all of us, it's our collective responsibility to ensure that we have good discussion, people be succinct in what they say, very brief and to the point, so by the end of this meeting, we can actually say yes, be very clear about what needs to be done. Okay. So on the agenda, I'll actually read it out just in case people haven't got an agenda, but they're very sort of brief points. One is attack on school children. The second one is Rasta brutalised in Peckham. The third one is around fascist leaflets around council premises. The fourth one is black kids arrested at Camberwell Green. The fifth one is around the police harassment of Africans. The sixth one is about proposal for a protest march, which we'll give more details around, and we'll actually go around planning that if the people here actually feel it's a good idea. There'll be a presentation on that, as it were. So we're actually going to have speakers who are going to address each of these topics. Before I go into that, there's been some concern raised by people here about the presence of the police. What is suggested here, the reason why the police were invited was because there's been so much concern about the actual policing in this area, and there's been two particular incidents which really we feel that the police should account for, as it were. So in a sense, we've called the police here to actually talk about some of the general issues of policing and outline some of the specific concerns which people have around particular cases. That being recognised, some people have actually stated that once that happens, they would like the police to leave. So I'm actually going to put that to the meeting now. What are people's views on that? In fact, To save us going into too much delay, I'll actually put a vote to the meeting.
Sure, before you do that, let me make my position very clear as an individual in relation. I think if we're going to get away, we've got to talk to the police. I think the police ought to be allowed to remain in this room. We've got nothing to hide from the police. If we walk up that blind alley, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, can I say also, Councillor, where the by-election is, we desperately need the police around Bonsible. There's no doubt about that. And I have to stand and say here tonight whether there's feelings against or for the police. As soon as I phoned the police several weeks ago to watch the Arlington estate, I can honestly say that the police have been doing a good job there, and they've come out and they've supported us. And there's been lots of black families there who needed support. And all I can say is that Carter Street has given us all the support we need.
Right, can I have other people's viewpoints on the matter?
Yeah, Chair. I mean, I would actually mention the fact that we want the police to say certain things, put certain points to the police and how they should go. Then I've heard another speaker talk about, we should have the police here, we don't have nothing to hide. I think the fact is, for anybody with any serious experience within our black community should know very clearly what the role of the police is, which is to kind of attack us and carry out these various kind of terrorist attacks upon our community. So we shouldn't be organising any meeting and talking about inviting police into our forum as if to say that there's any kind of dire confusion about what the police is basically doing now within our community. What we should be doing is calling upon our community to talk about how we can oppose these attacks which these police are taking place against us. We shouldn't engage in no kind of dialogue with them. They've made their position very clear.
I'm going to take back the
Police used horses against people. Police arrested 15 anti-racists. Going back a couple of months, the police had just picked on, beaten up and arrested an Asian lad in Woolwich. A meeting of 250 people in Thamesmead a couple of weeks later about a different subject, we booted them out. And the charges against this man were dropped. And the group that was looking after his case, Vicara, they seemed to feel that the police had a salutary lesson there in being booted out. And that showed them the sort of anger in the community. And that anger is what will either get the police in line or get them to behave to some extent, not sitting and talking to them.
Yeah, I'd just like to follow on with what he says. I mean, we can't have any faith in these people who say, yeah, they police everyone in the same way, when they're like, to go back to Thamesmead. I mean, they were detecting 100 fascists, letting them march up and down in this estate where black kids had just been murdered. And when 1,000 anti-racists and black people came out on the streets to actually protest against that, who did they attack? They didn't attack the fascists, they attacked us. How can we got to have any faith in these people, what they're doing? Let's go back to what the guy said. We know what they're here for. Why do we need to talk to them? We know what they're about. They'll come here and say, yes, 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 we'll do this, we'll do that. Then they'll go off and start beating other black people in the streets and all the rest of it. We don't need to talk to them. We've got to decide what we've got to do for ourselves.
Okay.
Can I just say, I understand everything you're saying. I've had police brutality because I was an activist long before I became a councillor. But since the racial attacks has happened in Southwark, I can't speak for Thamesmead, I can speak for Southwark. Black councillors have met with all the chief superintendents. Now, I agree that perhaps you don't want to speak with the police, but you must remember one thing, that the man who arrests you in the street is not the superintendent, he's not the boss. He's the grassroots. And it's up to us to make this known at the right areas. Because if the police do not deliver the goods to us as councillors about what they are doing on racial attacks in this borough, then they have to answer to us, because we are not speaking to the bobby on the beat, we are speaking to his boss. And that is what I am saying, that they need to know. Because I have taken cases to them, and a lot of the black councillors have taken cases to them, and we are getting feedback, we are getting results. We know who's being arrested, and we know who's being detained. That is what we want to know, that the perpetrators are actually being made to pay. And if the police are vandalizing the areas or attacking you, then it's up to you. You can't do it if you've got a closed
I'm
meeting.
going to take two more. There was one there and Benny at the back, and then I'm going to move it to a vote for the meeting, and then we'll go ahead. Okay, so...
David Martin, I'm the Chief Superintendent for the Southern Division, and what I'd like to say is that we wish to work towards a borough which is free from racism, and we wish to work with you in that regard. And we will only do this if we understand, and we're allowed to understand and hear the feelings that you have towards what is happening in your borough. And we would wish to hear and stay to listen to that and be able to respond to that, and I think it would be unfair if we were not allowed to.
No, I don't think that police should be allowed to stay. They're part of the problem, they're not part of the solution.
Yeah,
They know the duties very well. And I can tell you something. If black people were attacking white people, the men which are attacking us at the moment, there'll be thunder and brimstone coming on our heads, right? They are equally as racist. We should tell them to go, get their act together and do their duties and stop the racism and fascism of which they are integrally a part of.
Seriously, man, seriously. Can I say, before putting it to the vote, I mean, it's not the be-all and end-all of it all. What can actually happen afterwards is that a meeting be organised with the police if it is so wished. Yeah? So I'm going to, if you keep that in mind, I'm actually going to put that to the vote. I think we have to, no, I'm not going to have any more speeches. I'm going to put that to the vote. I think we have to sort of bear the majority wishes of this meeting in mind. Okay, so all those who feel that the police should stay throughout the duration of the meeting, some of the arguments that have been outlined.
Can I ask you a question before you put this to a vote, Chair? What is the criterion, what is the qualification to vote in this meeting? Because we're dealing with an issue that affects Southern. Can I ask you to clarify for me who is eligible to put their hands up and say, we will not talk to the police?
Can I say that this meeting was advertised London-wide, therefore people came because of the publicity. It is a Southwark issue, but black people are here from other areas outside of London. Can I put this to the meeting again? All those who wish the police to stay at this meeting, please can they indicate by a show of hands. Right, I have 27. Okay, all those against the police staying. Okay, it seems like those. Can I say that with that, what we had recommended was that the police, at this stage, give their general views about the issues that have been raised, and then they will leave.
Chair, excuse me, if you vote for the police to stay, right? I'm a local woman and I'm a councillor too, and when people get beaten, I go to the police.
Margaret, I'm sorry, but we've had the discussion.
You go and let them go. Why you let them stay and then you let them go?
Well, I explained.
If they go or they stay.
That was explained.
If you didn't go or they stay.
They are not. But the police don't have to know what the community is thinking and what the community is going to do.
Well, that's what
Police officers, let the police them stay.
Well, that's what I
because
said.
they will know from now what is the intention.
Come on, with respect, please. We've taken it to the meeting. You're part of the process in terms of the voting. The meeting has decided that this course of action, and let's get on with it because we have a long agenda and very limited time.
But Margaret, I'm going to say, right? How many of them here have their children beaten up? How many of them have to go out and speak to the police? And how many of them live in Southwark? How many people here who are Africans and black people live in Southwark and take on the shit? If we don't let them know the shit we're taking on, we're going to be continue taking the shit on.
Well, I know that already. Well, I know that already.
Let them know the shit.
Well, I know that already.
Look, can I say, please, Margaret, please. Margaret, go. Listen, please, at the beginning of this meeting, Winston.
Sorry, Chair.
Thank you. Look, can I just make a plea again, right? We aren't all going to be happy with some of the decisions that are made at this meeting. There will be opportunities to have different kinds of meetings, with or without the police, or on any other issue you might disagree with. What we want is to get to the bone of the agenda, right? We're not getting there. So if people don't like it, I frankly have to say they can leave. But let's move on with the majority of this meeting who actually wanted the course of action.
You don't need to tell the police bug everywhere, no one. That's it. You see, a councillor mash up the meeting, you know, councillor. You mash it up, you inform from people in the borough. And come back here, come talk about like so them and do something.
With the meeting, please. Okay, and if people don't like the decision that's being made, I will respectfully ask.
I'm telling farmer.
Okay. Well, can I ask you to give a brief contribution, please? Because that's common.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't come here to make a speech. I came here to listen and to actually answer questions. But Mr. Chair has invited me to speak, so I'd like to say a few words. My name's Bob Davis. I'm the Chief Superintendent at Peckham. I've been the Chief Superintendent there for 16 months. I want you to know that I consider the black police issue to be at the centre of the agenda. We know that at Southwark you make up 37% of the population and that the population is growing, and if we do not address the issues now, by the end of the decade we will have serious problems in this borough. Because it seems to me that action, the very thing, Chair, you said we would discuss at the end, is the very thing that we want to get involved in. We do care about the community, I want to assure you of that, and I'll say no more at this stage.
I would like the police to hear what I have to say. 3 weeks ago, my 11-year-old son was attacked by 3 white boys on the way home from school. Now, this incident started in school by him being continually taunted by men called him coons, wogs, and all the rest of it. He had a fight with the first kid that done it. The kid went and got his brother. His brother got involved in the fight. On the way home, my son said the boy's about 16. He got his eldest brother, which is 16. So the 3 of them attacked my son on the way home from school. He couldn't move his jaws when he got home, and he had an asthma attack. Thank God one of the teachers was on his way home and stopped the incident. I came up here to see Councillor Russell, and she introduced me to a police officer from Southwark Station who took me to Southwark Station, where I tried to report the incident. I was told to go home because it was late and my son's tired and I'm tired, and come back tomorrow. When I went back the next day, this is 3 weeks today, it's 3 weeks later, my son hasn't even made a statement about the incident. The policeman came back to my house and told me that he can't see anything being resolved by them prosecuting kids yet, even though this kid is known to the police. But if that's what you call good community relations, I'd hate to see bad.
I'd just like to say that you say you take race relations seriously. Can you tell me how many police officers have been suspended or even dismissed as a result of racist conduct in Southwark? And if you can't, I better tell you it's none. And if you want to know how many have been disciplined in the country, I'll tell you that as well, it's 2. Now you say you are taking race relations seriously. Well, that seems to me a pretty abysmal record. You want to do something about race relations, start by getting rid of the stupid little arseholes on the street who are under your command, who are going around attacking.
I got the 2nd of August for this. Right? The ear pull out, the teeth thump out, the police put the handcuff, right hand like a knuckle duster, and punch out my teeth. Sure. Raise the teeth, shirt, please. Sure. I need that for evidence. How much witness was there, I can't remember, but I was on the floor being beaten up on my belly. Kicked and punched. I bit a superintendent. I bit him. after they were hitting me a couple of times, 3 minutes, about 5 minutes I had to get on the floor. Right? I didn't use no form of aggro and I was charged for GBH with intent, assault with intent, obstruction of the drug something. When I checked on my statement on tape, the guy said he saw me throw away drugs, which I had no drugs. So if I don't win this case, which I know I have got to win it, because I smoked no drugs for the past year and a half because it costs too much. Every time I buy a draw weed to smoke true to my religion, these people look at me and say, I've got to pay it. So I'm buying it and paying you for smoking it. You understand? Ganja can't stop, man. You can't stop it. You don't care what you do. But the coke and crack thing down on that kind of show, we're not responsible. That's what I'm talking about. But if the next police come, I'm your wife, pay attention, you know. I'll come trouble me when I go to the shop to buy my food from my mother and pay for them. I'll kick in their mouth. You understand? Because it's wild, no one. You get wild. I don't trust police from I was a little you, and I don't trust you now, keep I'm 28. Patrick Constantine rules. You fuck with me, and I'll fuck with you. You understand? I fight. I will fight. They tried to provoke a riot. Well, this one would be in the lead, the front of the like a male shirt man, senior, warrior, go fight. Remember the fierce one. You keep it in your blood clot on earth Sunday morning.
Right. Can I just say this last speaker, and then that's it with the please. Okay.
Can I just ask the superintendent whether or not the officers under his control have actually read the Metropolitan Police's code of conduct that's recently been issued by the Chief Marshal?
That's a question I can answer.
Yeah, it's your policy that to read it.
I can tell you what we've done at Peckham.
Yeah.
We consider it so important that we actually get the right values with our officers. So we've actually taken every one of my staff away for a day to discuss it. To actually try and get them to address their weaknesses and to get them to address how they can improve. Not only have we done it one day, each of my officers has spent 2 days in the past year actually talking the issues through. So we take it seriously.
What is the measure? What is the measure then if they don't actually adhere to it? What is the measure?
Right? I said you just got the evidence. Hold on. Everybody in here said their piece, right? 3 weeks ago, on a Sunday, right? Hold on. A young kid, not more than 14 years old, right, was coming out from McDonald's, and 5 policemen from Carter Street attacked this youth and said that he just robbed a white woman. And they literally kicked the child in his head. And they took him to Carter Street. You know what the charge they brought up? For biting a policeman's finger. Right? And that is from, he took them away to talk police in this area.
In 2 days.
They're racist.
2 days. The man said he took
They're racist to the street to pay. A list of it. One of them up from my door. You know what's my turn? I went up and approached the family of the person who was beating up my daughter. The policeman turned around and arrested me and said that I am racist. Right? From Carter Street. So don't sit there and say you take your officers them to anywhere and talk.
For 2 days, you don't hear what the man said, 2 days. I should be talking 2 days. That's 48 hours. What are you talking about in 48 hours? What conclusion can you get in 48 hours? Yeah, Steer man.
Okay, can we move on to the agenda, please? Right, with respect to the wishes of the majority of the meeting, I'd like to move on to the agenda. Can I ask, the first item on the agenda was the issue of attacks on school children. I'm going to ask Anthony Rice, who has been involved on this particular issue, to give a contribution to the meeting.
Can I say that a couple of things? One is that I've not been involved on the issue of meetings. What happened just now is a very clear example as to how we actually move backwards rather than moving forward. There are a number of people in here who are first grade. They don't want to see police in here. I haven't seen many of them in Southwark. I don't think they actually knew what Southwark was like until today. The issue for us is that the things that the speakers have to say is for the police to listen to. That's why there was this meeting. And I'm going to say something else. That there's some people here on the platform, some in the audience, who think that it is good to demonstrate that they have the power, they can say, kick the police out, etc. And then they're going to go away and expect the problems to go away with that. Now, I think that you have to think seriously about that. You have to think really seriously about that. Because the issue that will affect to demonstrate that they have the power, they can say, kick the police out, etc. And then they're going to go away and expect the problems to go away with that. Now, I think that you have to think seriously about that. You have to think really seriously about that. Because the issue that affect our kids, the issue that affect our brothers and sisters, the issue that affect me on the streets, ain't going to go away by pushing the police away. There was a meeting organised not so long ago by the council that was effectively managed in relation to try to deal with an issue of attack of school children in this area. How many of you were there? How many of you were there? From school children. How many of you were there? Yet tonight, you actually hear saying, you know, well, we don't really want the police there. We want victims, we say.
Is this you?
We want
victims. For anybody to come?
We want victims, we say.
Was this for anybody to come? Was this you? Just ask me a question. We can ask you a question now. Is this you? I'm telling everybody I have to drop it. Yeah, I'm telling you. Because who feels it knows it. I
You have 400 years worth of experience, some more one.
What you say? Say it again loud, make him hear.
You have 400 years worth of experience, man.
There are other people in this room
That's it.
who wanted to put their position to the police, and they were not afforded that opportunity because the time involved to do that was short because of the nature of the way how things went. As a black community, and those of us who are committed to ensuring that the police properly in this city, this borough, and in this country, that we need to be able to develop a strategy that is going to work, not a strategy that's going to defeat its objective. Organize ourselves locally and take the issues up locally. It is not fair, nor is it just, for few individuals in this borough to be the individuals or the ones who constantly, on behalf of the black community in Coast, having to go to the police station, having to take the issue up about police brutality, and in particular, around education. No child has the right to learn in terror or play in terror. What happened to the children at school was that they were experiencing terror, not only in SOUTHWARK, but also, as we were told, around the schools. It is therefore important that apart from some of the rhetoric, that we have a strategy. And the strategy is not only about demonstrating, it's not only about putting political positions, it's really about ensuring that there is safety, it's about ensuring that we collect the kind of intelligence that is necessary to ensure that police men who abuse our community are brought to book. It's about capitalizing on the experiences of brothers and sisters who went through that system of brutality at the hands of the police and came out as victors, although in a sense it was not a victory because they're still faced with the kind of oppression that we have to constantly live through. And finally,
you didn't know said Ku Klux Klan in the police force. If a man touch me, I'm gonna get vexed, you know. Move from me. Did you know that Ku Klux Klan in the police force? Me know that, see? The youth, they were real youth, me's 28, me fight in a school against white boy, them learn to respect, you see? Them afraid that we like posts, we are breed like rabbits, you understand? There's too much of us, you understand? So if I kill off somebody, this is not South Africa, it's not Jamaica, because here I want to come back to England, because out there so gone out of control, see? Everybody will go out there to come for we, you understand? So everything you are telling me is rubbish. Now them send police from there, so hold on now, I'm gone. After me done talk, I'm gone, come I can't take this. When we go yard, see, whole heap of white people up there, I take them holiday, but them are police. I learned to train how them deal with people in foreign, like America. See, if you watch some of the documentaries, them fling down youth and lock them up, put handcuffs behind their back and search the pork and crap. But don't find it and try to get drugs and kill them. Now, the reason why we don't come in at this town hall, yes sir, me personally, blue boy, the same time the shows there, because there's too much fraud. We don't trust no more. Like this gentleman here I used to like, don't like him no more. He tries hard to talk to me, I don't talk to him. This man here, I don't deal with them man. Them man, they can't walk beside me because them man, they talk big. And they don't do nothing, so we don't trust them. The man coming to my ear, I'll kick them down. You understand?
Read him, my baby, read him.
I'm a bad guy. Now, what am I say? Where the police them hurt me? Where the police
Read him, a serious talk. You
She looked in my face, she said she's sick. She doesn't have a sick bed to look on me. She never got no solicitor to help me. Big mouth, you know what I'm talking about? The big one, the loose one. Right? She come in and look on me. Right? You give. Well, no, because you can't stop until you finish. Now, hear what I'm saying? All this we say you can't do nothing because your hands are tied. Of course your hands are tied because you're working for white man. You understand? Until you can understand, try to do things yourself. You don't need no money from the white man to help you, to help yourself. If you want our help as a youth, come to us and help us with what we have to do, because we have things we want to do as well. But you people sit down and some big money and go out like you're somebody. Now understand, when riots start, you think you can come out and tell us to stop?
Oh,
you probably
bigger
get big
business.
yourself, you understand? So get your priority right. Come in the ghetto, spend time, smoke some weed with us, get some giving. And get to know what's going on in the ghetto. We live in there. And we there from fire every minute. We're not selling weed, we're not selling drugs. One, stuff, everything I'm from market. Everything, I don't even cook with a knife. I always cook with a knife, you understand? Tell them to leave my love. And I got caught the 2nd of August, see what I mean? I'm a God jail when we come up and I kill people. Kill people! What's that clap?
Right. I mean, what I want to say after that is we should not ridicule what that contribution was, because that is reality for this guy. This was the guy that was kicked down on Peckham High Street, yeah? And okay, I tried to shut him up, and maybe I shouldn't have done that. And he's had his say, he's angry, he's gone away. And I want this meeting to focus at the end about what we're going to do about that. 2nd of August is the date he's given, right? We're going to get information to everybody in this room about where that court hearing is going to take place. And I want each and every one of us there. Yeah? All right, and further into this meeting, really, I want respect. You know, we're here as black brothers and black sisters, and frankly, we're disrespecting each other. Yeah? At the beginning, I asked for a bit of support as the chair. One person cannot always, guide the whole meeting through. I want a bit of respect from each and every one of us in here. Because at the end of the day, Anstey mentioned we want a strategy at the end. If we go away without a strategy at the end, it's a waste of time. Yes, I plead to this meeting for our own sake. We could be in the same position as this brother here. All right. Do I have your support on that?
Yes, sir. You see, I'm here tonight and seeing the police sitting down. A lot of my brothers and sisters are saying, we don't want the police. Other brothers says, yeah, we want the police, but we have nothing to hide. I agree with that, man. We have nothing to hide. The police has to know what is in the mind of the community. Just when the blood starts to shed, then the real already know what is going to happen. There's no sense the police is going to walk outside and then we have the meeting. Who are we talking to? Our own people. Our children and stuff.
At 5:30, you can have as many answering machines as you want, but that's no good for the black community out there. So I'm asking people here, first of all, to set up a steering group tonight. Please be tolerant with each other's views. At the end of the day, everybody here has a part to play. There aren't enough black people here with regarding to the struggle as it's being taken across Europe at the moment. Black people being killed in Berlin, in Portugal, in the Netherlands, etc. There aren't enough of us. We haven't got the time or the luxury to sit around and start arguing amongst each other. That is a luxury we can ill afford. We've got to get together, organise, be tolerant with each other. And I think, going back to that point about the police and the council, you have to, at the end of the day, conduct your affairs with regard to aspirations and viewpoints of people that are outside this room. I don't see very many youths in this room at the moment. I see very few people under 20 in this room at the moment. At the end of the day, you've got to make a conscious effort to actually get those people, to get those views, because at the end of the day, they're the people who are going to be suffering more than we are. We as streetwise, we've learned how to cope with it. It's the kids who are coming out of the schools at 3:30. It's the teenagers in the streets in the evening or during the day, etc. So those are the views you have to take on board. They might not speak or the way you want it to be spoken. They might not respect the chair because I think meetings such as this are a waste of time. But nonetheless, we've got to go out there and channel that anger, channel the points of view, and bring them back here and move forward. So I wish you well, and call on us in Greenwich, call us in the black sections, the Society of Black Lawyers, and we'll come and assist. But please, please don't let this meeting go to waste. Organise at the end of it. Thank you.
Right, finally we're going to call on B. Jasper from National Black Caucus just to introduce some of the things we could be looking at in terms of strategy. The last speaker just some of that, which was good. These are going to be very brief. And then we're going to open it up to the floor for some brief points of view about what we need to do. Okay.
Well, first of all, can I thank those people that have come from, not necessarily from Southwark, but from around outlying areas, who are coming to support what they see as a community under attack here. And I think that ought to be applauded and not really denigrated in any way, because we're going to need all the support that we can get. As has already been stated, there are far too few of us, and those few of us, progressive whites and blacks suffering the oppression, who can organise in some response, ought to be congratulated when we attempt to do so. I think moving on from that, what is the local authorities' response to victims of racial harassment, taking this one particular? Winston is quite right when he says that for 2 years now, we've had 2 conferences organised by the Housing Department to talk about racial harassment policy, the victim support schemes that are needed for people who find themselves in these terrible situations. And although the policy's been laid on paper and it's looked very well, it's still not been passed by the Housing Committee. And therefore, officers are taking a very laissez-faire view of whether they implement it or not. The progressive ones are saying, yes, I will implement some aspects of it. The racist ones, which we know exist within Southwark councils, are not implementing it. And there's a whole heap of confusion around what happens when you are a victim of racial harassment after hours. So that point needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed pretty damn quickly. Because I don't want to be here, and I'm sure we, as a collective community, don't want to be here in another emergency meeting called because some young person, be they black, male, white, indifferent, because don't forget there was a white youth killed in supporting his black colleague in of, where was it? Hackney. Thank you. There's so many, sometimes I just... my brain just seizes up on me like that. But so that people are involved in this, and I don't want to have to come down here to address some god-awful incident that has happened in Southwark and call in another emergency meeting to deal with these issues. I want to take a proactive stance. The National Black Caucus, along with the black community groups within Southwark and the white progressive organisations who are dealing with anti-fascism, need to come together to provide that sort of progressive approach towards police brutality, racial attacks, and the increase in BNP activity. And the brother's quite right when he says we've left it far too long to respond to these fascists that are organising and have been organising and continue to organise in the north, in the Bermondsey and Rotherhithe. And let me also tell you that the Liberal Democrats who have got representatives on this council are also colluding with that kind of racism. And we should make no mistake about that. They share the same views as their cousins in the Isle of Dogs and Tower Hamlets, which is just the white cabal over the other side of the water. There is a small group of Liberal Democrats who represent council wards by the waterside, who are pushing and pandering to the racist feelings and sympathies in those areas to try and secure their political skins in this borough, because they know otherwise they would be wiped out. And those things have got to be addressed, and they've got to be addressed head on. And neither should we be fooled in thinking that the Conservative councillors are anyway at all interested in race equality, race legislation or protection for blacks. They're indeed pandering now to the racist vote, as been alluded by so eloquently by Winston Stafford in terms of Major's recent speech. What we want to do is to begin to organise in a proactive way. I know there'll be political differences. We have political differences with the black sections. We work together. The black sections have political differences with the Society of Black Lawyers. We work together. We work together with the SWP. We work together precisely because we know that there's an issue that needs addressing, and those concerns far outweigh our concerns about petty ideology and the differences between us. We have much more in common in terms of the fight against racism than we have that divide us. What we're seeking to do is to work and to organise with black groups here in Southwark to organise a strategic response Part of that response we feel ought to be a national demonstration. There is a proposed date. I don't know whether people have got this piece of paper, but there is a proposed date for the 27th of August for a march to be taking place in Southwark, rallying at either Canal Head or Peckham Ryan, the detail of which can be discussed later, and marching through Peckham and Southwark and marching to Bermondsey, where the fascists are, to state quite clearly that we will not tolerate fascism, racist attacks or police brutality in this borough. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take the strategic response and mass action in order to highlight some of the problems that have been existing in this borough. For far too long, the police, in my view, in Southwark have been getting away with high-profile, violent arrests of the black community, threatening individuals who, one of the instances, a brother there witnessed it, when a black man of my age got out of the car and said, "You're actually beating up these young people, what are you doing? Why can't you arrest them in a civil manner? Why can't you apply the rules of the land?" The police officer turned around and said to the officer, "If you don't get out my face, you're going to be nicked." And 2 minutes later, that black man was arrested under a public order offence. He was assaulted when he tried to restrain the officers, put him in the van, and now he's subject to a court case, etc., etc. These are the kinds of everyday instances that we've got to face. They're not any Mickey Mouse petty concerns of people who might say, oh, the political radicals of one section of the community or another are drumming up support for isolated incidents, trying to make big things out of little things. These are big things. We're talking about our children's lives. We're talking about our black people's inalienable right to be able to walk the streets in peace. This is 1991, for God's sake. We're not living in the dark ages, or at least we're not supposed to be. And yet today in Southwark, you cannot walk down Cherry Gardens. You can't take your kids to school in the north of the borough. You can't, as a minority members, walk the police without people coming to check your immigration status. Ask Africans what happens to them in this borough. Officers will stop them for the least little reason. They'll ask them about, is this your car? Yes. The next question is, how long have you been in the country? And down to the station, your immigration status is checked, and you're out of the country before you even have time to contact anybody. All these things are happening in Southwark, and they need to be responded to. We as a national organisation wish to support any local initiative. I sit on the executive for my sins of the Southwark Black Communities Consortium, and we as a local group are wanting to address this issue. So what we're asking for is that we consider the proposals as outlined on this paper as a beginning. And it's quite right what's been said. What we need is a long-term approach. And part of that long-term approach in other boroughs, where there are these sorts of problems, has been the development of some sort of monitoring project. Now the name, you can talk about anything you like. Racial Attacks Monitoring Project, Southwark Against Racist Attacks, anything. I mean, the name's irrelevant. But what is clearly needed is that this authority has to now put its money where its mouth is. What I'm amazed about in Southwark is that there are no examples of anti-racist collaboration. That the council doesn't seem to be interested in working hand in hand with the black community. That, we don't seem to be able to get off the ground, even from a trade union point of view, the kind of support that we're going to need to deal with these things. What we're saying now is the time for that step to be made. Let's develop that monitoring project, black and white alike, so that we can confront in a strategic way the fascist activity. We can monitor the police attacks. We can monitor immigration type arrests, etc., etc., and begin to organise our communities to provide some security for those people who in 1991 can still not walk down the streets of this borough in safety and with a degree of peace. So I urge you to address the issues as outlined, and I hope the Chair will outline them further for you, so we can get some unanimity and some views from yourself upon this way forward. But we give our rock-solid commitment that we, on whatever level we can, and with whatever level of support we can muster in the borough, and I'm sure it's going to be better after tonight, that we are going to address this issue strategically on a long-term basis, and God willing, with your support. Thank you very much.
Now it's your turn. Thanks for your patience within that. However, I'm still going to restrict people in terms of being really succinct and very brief in what they're saying. But if people can link it to action, link it to some of the suggestions that have been made. There's been a suggestion made for the subgroups to meet, to discuss particular cases that have been mentioned. There's been a suggestion about the national demonstration. There have been other suggestions made which are specific towards ensuring that there is action after this meeting. So people can, okay, address the general points too. You haven't had a chance to do that. But please forgive me if I appear to cut you down. I have to in the interest of time and to get the meeting moving. Okay. Maxine.
Just a few points to illustrate, in the sense that what's actually happening over time is that we, young people, black people, we've been suffering and we've been attending meetings and meetings and meetings. Well, as far as I'm concerned, enough is enough. We have to act now. I support any decision or the notion of actually organising ourselves in groups. And, you know, sometimes we've done too much talking and we need to act. Action is about demonstration. It's about actually listening to the cries of our young people, because they're quickly putting them in jails and doing all sorts. On Tuesday, I was actually walking down Peckham, where I witnessed a young black guy being arrested. The handcuffs were actually put on him. When I said to them, what's actually going on? Obviously, I could see what was going on, but I wanted to know. The officer turned around to me and told me that, you know, move or else you're going to get arrested. I mean, and I have a strategy. I say to them, the spirit of my ancestors are with me, and if you catch me, you're not going to live tomorrow.
Good one.
I always tell them that. So I support any action in actually organising ourselves in a demonstration, and we need to organise the youth. They are actually crying out, and we need to hear them.
Thank you, Maxine. I'm going to take a brother over there.
I just want to come back to a few of the points that were raised about where we go from here in terms of strategy. Now, there's two aspects of this, okay? And I'll briefly outline both of them. One aspect is about police accountability, the role of the council, the role of local authorities. Because you've got Southwark Council, who we supposedly voted for, we've got councillors, and we've got supposedly police consultative committees, okay? If we have racist attack in schools, surely Southwark Education has a policy on which to deal with racist teachers, with racist school kids. People's jobs should be on the line. Schools should be a safe haven for racism. And Southwark Council should be pursuing those policies down the line. Now that requires from our part some kind of representation. We say we have black council, we say we have paper policies. But you know, there is a method of directly doing something, having racist attacks taking part in certain parts of boroughs. Those teachers, those headmasters, those kids should know that that's an extremely serious affair. And also, if Southwark Council has the power as a consultative committee, and supposing we pay money to the council, then we have the power, if there's a political will, to do something about that. Either than stopping the police money, etc. But there doesn't exist a political will in Southwark, because the second part of the strategy is it does not exist an organised, independent movement on the outside. When they talk to these people, they know they're not talking to just a layer of activists or a layer of people being bought off with race relations money. They're talking to people who have roots within the community, and then they actually might start doing something. And this is a political issue. The police don't do this just because they don't like black people. After 1981, the man clearly said we were trying to set up a layer and let the rest feel that perhaps black people making the country. But for the rest of them, we would have to call these people into intimidation. That is why we represent 5% of the population, 25% of us inside prisons. Holloway, women's prisons are like 60% black.
Can I cut you down?
But tell me what is going on if that isn't a direct political act by the police as an arm of this state to keep
a slavery, man.
No. Because you know, we know about the court, we know about the police. We know about this system. It's about brutalizing and criminalizing. So I'm saying the two aspects are, we have an organization, Southwark, it states our votes. We have councils who support acting on our behalf. And we should start forcing them to use their political power to start dealing with racist teachers, to start dealing with racist school children. But most importantly, build an organization that has roots throughout all the youths, everyone in this area. When we come and talk, we talk in good. That's part of this the first time
I'm going to stop you there. I think you've made the 2 points very clear. All right. We'll address it at the end, okay?
Yeah, I think first of all, you know,
This is an important meeting. I think you should have a full discussion. Everybody here who wants to make points should get the opportunity of making them. We're not here rubber stamping the committee. We're not here rubber stamping people to come out and make decisions. Now, so far in this meeting, I've come here to discuss a campaign against the racism of the police. And so far, you know, as far as the campaign is concerned, all of here so far was talk about is a monitoring project, about meeting subgroups, about our discussions with subgroups and so forth in the council. We already can have the opportunity of doing that. We are here, and it's some disappointment, to be honest with you, that the one man, the Rasta man who came here, who made the most sense, who spoke the most sense so far as well as this meeting, left the meeting and discussed. If we are serious about discussing racism, if we're serious about discussing police racism, we have to be organized in such a way to mobilize people, not just to come out and try and get a subcommittee to discuss with the councils, because so far there's been one fundamental mistake that's been made here, particularly by the people who call this meeting. It's not so much the question of bringing the police here. You know, the important mistake and misunderstanding is the fact that it's not a question of sitting down and discussing with the police and hearing nicely, and the police hearing what we have to talk about as far as racism. The police already know the kind of problems that they're dealing with. We have to be organizing a campaign. So having the police here to discuss that ain't making no difference. And if you go down that road, as far as supposedly leading the campaign or feeling that's what you have to do, discuss with the police, make this point, talk with this subcommittee and that, we ain't getting nowhere. There are many subcommittees in Brixton and everywhere else. You know what they used for? When the riots was down in Brixton in 1984, it's the same subcommittees here. The same people who come up here on this thing, on this platform as supposedly councillors defending black people. It's these people are out on the front of the street and telling the people to be quiet. They ain't telling the police that they shouldn't be shooting cherry girls, you know. They're telling the youth on the street, expressing their anger, that they should be quiet. So we have to be careful that if we're talking about a campaign, that we are talking about ordinary people involved in this campaign. The youth on the street, the other people who are involved, not just some people sitting at the front and making glossy remarks. You know, anybody can sound radical. It's when you have to take action that's the important thing.
A serious thing, man.
I'm not going to talk about the campaign against the police, but I'm going to talk about the campaign against racism. A number of speakers from the platform mentioned the activities of the BNP. Well, I don't know whether people know what's been going on recently, but a couple of weeks ago, the British National Party leafleted some estates in the Brunswick ward, and they're standing at a candidate in the council by-election on the 29th of July. And the leaflet was a leaflet that said rights for whites, and it was, apart from being racist, it was also full of the most virulent attacks on a council officer, with really sort of derogatory remarks about her sexuality, and criticising her for evicting white racist families instead of evicting squatters who are the victims of homelessness. And I think this leaflet is clearly an attempt to divide people in that ward, which, you know, it hasn't got a history of racism, it's got a large black population. They just want to try and get a foothold in there. And I think that we've got to show them that they're not wanted there, and they haven't got a presence there, and they're not to get one either. I mean, they're just trying to use the fact that the estates are run down, the effects of the cuts that the government's making and the councillors are resisting to try and divide people. But I think there are things that people can do about this. The day after the leaflet was issued, there were meetings in Southwark Council, because the person that was being attacked was a Southwark Council officer, condemning the leaflet and talking about organising some sort of action. Last Sunday, there was an organising meeting trying to set up a little campaign against the British National Party around the estates that has caused a meeting that I think people will be interested in going to. The meeting is next Tuesday at 6:30, and it's going to be an anti-Nazi rally outside the Harris Street neighbourhood office, which is in Edmund Street. And I believe there's a speaker from the Roland Adams campaign going to be there as well. And the other thing that the group decided that I think it's really important that people get involved in is trying to do mass petitioning of those estates, speaking, having both black and white people going out and petitioning all the people on those estates and arguing with them about why we don't want the British National Party, why they've got no place here, why we're going to demonstrate against them, build the widest possible resistance to them. So I know that the campaign decided to do leafleting and petitioning. Some of us in the Socialist Workers' Party went round some of those estates on Monday night with a leaflet and a petition and got very good results. Got probably about 60 to 100 signatures against the British National Party. We're going to be doing it again on Sunday, meeting with Warren Castle at 12 o'clock. I'd urge everybody to get involved in that campaign. Come along and petition with us, but most of all, make sure you get to that open air rally at 6:30 on Tuesday and start building a campaign against the British National Party and don't let them get any soundholes in Southwark.
People indicate who want to speak.
Can I speak?
People show their hands, just about them.
Yeah. The problem that what we are going through right now is because the people that we have as leaders or as people to really lead with forward, they are incompetent, most of them, you know. And all they do, they just sell way out, because if we have the councillors, them who is supposed to help us, informing, and the citizen in their own borough, that means that something is wrong. That's why the police can brutalize us, because you see this leakage coming from our own people. You have councillors in here. That is not support. None of them come in the ghetto until there's a problem, when them need vote. And until some white people get them neck cut, or some people start to die, they're not going to realize that this is not a dream, this is war. Right? And all of us sit down there with a kind of moderate grin and don't realize that some serious thing happened to our people. You know, it's slavery this, you know. So some of us have big car, big house, but we don't give a damn about the other man out on the street. And anytime we keep on pussyfooting ourselves around, we're going to see how serious we take this issue. So that's all I have to say, because I don't know how to talk with all the, you know, hypocrite.
There was a councillor earlier on, Sonia Morrison, who's chair of the race committee, and she said some things I disagree with. She said that black people alone are the key, that it's unity amongst black people that is the solution to this answer. She said, which class you belong to is irrelevant, and that is something I really have to take on. And when Lee Jasper, actually, where is he, over there, he said, like, that it is black and white, in particular progressive white, that is the key to this fight, uniting as a class question. That, I think, is really important, because one of the reasons that racism exists originally, it is around the question of the methods of the ruling class, which is to divide and rule the working class, to actually smash us in that way. And when we find out what's happening in Brunswick Ward, a Lambeth councillor who has had a sex change, but because of the sex change, just in the way the fascists attack lesbians and gays, they actually attack Rachel Webb, who is also a Southwark housing officer. It is really terrible to refer to her as it. Is she a man or a woman? It's really absolutely degrading. It's the same question in many ways, in the way we approach tackling the state. And that's why I think it's really important that we don't just see it as a black question. And in the way John Major has recently come out. Right, okay. Right, but John Major's come out in Europe with this new Europe to say close the borders. It's come out really strong. Le Pen 2 days later was over here. Le Pen is organising Europe and organising fascism. It's really important, right? Now, yesterday, last night, I was out on the Brunswick ward with about 20 people, about 17 people with anti-fascist action. We were putting up posters for this meeting, for anti-fascist action meeting that's happening at the Warwick Castle, for other meetings going on, and the Tuesday meeting that the comrade here referred to. I think it's really important that we link into the totality of what's going on and not just limit it to black people, because I think that is a danger.
It's on the black people that feel the pain.
I'm going to stop you there.
I know.
Yeah. I'm going to take two more. Sorry, I'm going to take two more. You can contribute to the end where we're talking about gentlemen over there, gentlemen at the back, and then we'll talk about specific action.
Yeah, I mean, my name is Minka from the Black Unity and Freedom Party. So speak up. Yeah, my name is Minka from the Black Unity and Freedom Party. Right, so I'm not just like coming to this meeting in terms of just letting off a little talk and then go away and then yes, I feel good. I've been organising for a long time in our community, and I think during that time we've been able to learn quite a few things. And I just want to comment, a quick comment on this, the last speaker that talked about this kind of rise of racism and the question about it's a class question and the objects of people talking about just black people organising. Well, I want to oppose that on on two specific kind of counts. I mean, on the first thing, this idea about raising up Europe 1992 and raising up these kinds of ultra-racist groups as being a particular kind of threat to our community. As if, when we look at our community at this moment in time, when we see the major attacks taking place in our community, is not in fact coming from the so-called fascists on the streets, but they're actually coming through labor-controlled boroughs and authority in the terms of education, in which we see our youths actually coming out of school nowadays without actually being able to read and write, the amount of youths who we find in the prisons and the job situation. So I think if we're talking about opposing these attacks, then we've got to be absolutely clear who our friends and who our enemies are. Now, people at the beginning, we heard this youth coming up being very angry, and I support 95% of what that youth says, and I'm going to go further to say I support 5% of what the platform had said. Because where the majority of people on this platform are actually talking about dialogue with police, talking with police. If people are talking about going forward, opposing these fascist attacks taking place in our community, then we must be clear what the role of the police is. And as we said it already, and we say it again at the beginning when we put the motion to get the police out of these meetings, they're here to terrorize our community, right? And we don't sit down and talk with terrorists, we sit down and we talk about how we as a community is going to organize ourselves to defend ourselves against this terrorist attack. Our brothers and sisters in South Africa, have called for the police to come out of our community. We have to say to ourselves, we want the police out of our community, because any decent-minded person will understand if you get a burglary today and you call the police, you lock it, they'll turn off. We have to talk about organizing community defense within our community. Yes, deal with those negative elements within our community, but at the end of the day, how are we as a black force, as a black community, is going to not only defend our community against these negative elements, but particularly against this fascist police, in fact, who carry out more fascist attack upon our community than the so-called civilian fascists in which people are talking about. So I support this demonstration which is being called, and I also support the need, specifically connected with a call which is out at the moment in regards to developing a national black community defense campaign, and it's on the agenda, and I hope the chair will say a little bit about that, in which I understand the next meeting will be tomorrow at the Bon Marché in Brixton, and I hope people are seriously talking about doing something about our situation, really try getting involved with that initiative. I don't have any illusion whatsoever in the police. First of all, my name is Mohammed. I'm from the Royal Army Family Campaign. May I just say, my sister's gone, but I want to pay respect to my sister Mazania. Made a blistering speech that I think is very important. May I say this for the white people here in this meeting tonight? Black people should not in this country anymore have to prove anything to Britain. We have proven 400 years of slavery what we are capable of. We've survived 400 years of your brutality. So we shouldn't have to prove to any white person in this room what we are and what we've done in this country. I think white people will get out of their so-called liberal-minded backsides and go to their own communities and root out racism for themselves. Because they're the ones who come to us and tell us what they're doing for us, but they go home to their white communities and they can hide and they can disappear among white racists, and we will never know who they are. So we can go to your white asses and go to your communities and start
taking you back to the realms and depths of time.
Are you still a slave?
We are the children of the kidnapped people of the Songhai Empire.
This station is our legacy. And this station will only continue if we continue to support it and let people know about it. There should be a galaxy in every African country. In every country where you see Africans, there should be a galaxy.
You're in tune to Galaxy Radio, the only de-brainwashing station.